two. 1 2. Check, check. 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Okay, so like a 20-second delay.
It's a really intriguing question to ponder. How does time and space affect memory? And
United Kingdom, that's the
Four people have been.
Right, so there's nothing more cheery and gratifying than seeing Keir Starmer being trapped between a rock and a hard place, all of his own making. But here we are, a little bit of good news for a change in that respect, as one of the new intake MPs from July has in no time at all managed to pull something off that will have Starmer and his rancid Tory tribute act of a Labour Party wriggling like a worm on a hook. But there's no getting out of this one. Independent Alliance MP Shuka Adam, the former optician from Leicester, has presented a bill to Parliament entitled the Recognition of the State of Palestine Bill. If this bill were to pass, the UK would be obligated to immediately recognise the State of Palestine. And you can imagine that Keir Starmer wouldn't have a bar of it. His dictatorial style of leadership would demand his MPs not support such a thing, and I'm sure they would duly oblige, likely followed by the Conservatives as well. But that would of course simply expose again and reinforce the now more and more widespread belief that the two main parties are completely out of step with public opinion on the matter of Israel. And despite everything we continue to witness in both Gaza and Lebanon now, nothing has actually changed for our government, and for so many MPs who will continue to support Israel come what may. But the damage this is going to do to their reputations, already historically low as they are for Starmer's Labour, will be nothing less than they deserve for it either. Right, so Independent Alliance MP for Leicester South, Shaukat Adam, is a guy it's probably fair to say is more well known for how much the media intentionally ignore him amongst all MPs, weirdly, than any other MP certainly, because the Labour MP he beat at the general election basically seems to have a reserved seat these days on Good Morning Britain. The professional loser and still whining about that loss, yet despite all of that held up as some kind of bastion of being on the pulse of actual UK politics and public opinion, all despite actually never having served in any government whatsoever, Jonathan Ashford. Where Adam has closely aligned with Jeremy Corbyn and other independent MPs who've also beat off Labour competition at the general election and sent other MPs packing as well, all despite Labour's apparent landslide victory. Collectively, they've now formalised their alliance, not quite a party, but an alliance, meaning they act as a group on some issues but aren't obliged to on absolutely everything. The Independent Alliance is it. Well, Adam has now laid down in Parliament a private member's bill, which is going to be an absolute headache for Keir Starmer, because where he desperately needs a boost in his approval ratings right now, and for those of his party, especially as they continue to degrade ahead of what is expected to be a hugely damaging and harmful austerity budget in just over a week's time, the ongoing and deeply unpopular, insistent and consistent support for the genocidal apartheid state of Israel continues, and it continues unabated. No red lines there for Starmer. He's been all put up on the spot about that point before. What would it take for him to stop supporting Israel, stop arming Israel, stop flying intelligence missions from Cyprus for Israel? And he won't answer, won't give one. In fact, where that RAF base on Cyprus such frights are coming from, RAF Akrotiri, is an ongoing story being pretty much uniquely covered by Declassified UK right now. He's banned MPs from actually asking about that in Parliament. He's quite the Democrat, isn't he? But at any rate, this bill of Shaukat Adams is putting Starmer between a rock and a hard place. His pro-Israel donors won't allow it. The Israel lobby will be incensed by it. Yet the Labour Party manifesto going into the last election also made provisions for a state of Palestine to be recognised. So this is being forced now by an opposition MP, a point that Labour actually had included in its manifesto. Well, the optics are as painful as you can get. It's not that any of us will have much sympathy for Team Keep. But if this bill were to pass into law, a long stretch, big ass, the UK will be obliged to join the other 146 UN member states who already recognise the state of Palestine. And it has received cross-party support amongst progressive politicians. Adam's bill, of course, must be co-sponsored, and as you would expect, the other four members of the Independent Alliance have indeed done so. Jeremy Corbyn, Iqbal Mohammed, Adnan Hussein and Ayub Khan. Other co-sponsors, however,
So
include
if I were
John
to
Berry
talk
of the
like
Green
this,
Party, Brendan
how would it
O'Hara and
sound
Stephen Gethin
with the
of
microphone
the SNP,
placement?
and Liz Saville Roberts of Plaid Cymru. One Labour MP has co-sponsored it, Kim Johnson, and one of the currently sitting Labour MPs who Keir Starmer suspended for voting against keeping kids in poverty, Ian Byrne, has also co-sponsored it. To be honest, I don't think any of those suspended Labour MPs harbour much hope really of ever having the Labour restored, but
You can
quite
still hear
frankly,
me,
why would
it's
they
fine, I
want
think.
it like that? They probably earn more respect and more props amongst their own voters and constituents by being suspended. Badge of honour.
Bring that off. Just for a sound check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. One, two, three, four, five. I'll have to. It's better if I speak directly into this thing then. So this placement might work. Okay. If I put this right in front of here. Okay, how does that sound? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 3, check, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, 1, 2, check 1, 2, 1, 2, check 1, 2. There's a lot of feedback or background noise. Okay, turning the volume down a little bit. Or whatever. I think it's that loud here. Okay. I'll keep it up.
As that now increasingly seems to be. Right, so there's nothing more cheery and gratifying than seeing Keir Starmer being trapped between a rock and a hard place, all of his own making. But here we are, A little bit of good news for a change in that respect is one of the new intake MPs from July has in no time at all managed to pull something off that will have Starmer and his rancid Tory tribute act of a Labour Party wriggling like a worm on a hook. But there's no getting out of this one. Independent Alliance MP Shoukat Adam, the former optician from Leicester, has presented a bill to Parliament entitled the Recognition of the State of Palestine Bill. If this bill were to pass, the UK would be obligated to immediately recognise the State of Palestine. And you can imagine that Keir Starmer wouldn't have a bar of it. His dictatorial style of leadership would demand his MPs not support such a thing, and I'm sure they would duly oblige, likely followed by the Conservatives as well. But that will of course simply expose again and reinforce a now more and more widespread belief that the two main parties are completely out of step with public opinion on the matter of Israel. And despite everything we continue to witness about Gaza and Lebanon now, nothing has actually changed for our government, and for so many MPs who will continue to support Israel come what may. But the damage this is going to do to their reputations, already historically low as they are for Starmer's Labour, will be nothing less than they deserve for it either. Right, so Independent Alliance MP for Leicester South, Shoukat Adam, is a guy it's probably fair to say is more well known for how much the media intentionally ignore him amongst all MPs, weirdly, than any other MP certainly, because the Labour MP he beat at the general election basically seems to have a reserved seat these days on Good Morning Britain. The professional loser and still whining about that loss, yet despite all of that held up as some kind of bastion of being on the pulse of actual UK politics and public opinion, all despite actually never having served in any government whatsoever, Jonathan Ashborough. Where Adam has closely aligned with Jeremy Corbyn and other independent MPs who've also beat off Labour competition at the general election and sent other MPs packing as well, all despite Labour's apparent landslide victory. Collectively, they've now formalised their alliance, not quite a party, but an alliance, meaning they act as a group on some issues but aren't obliged to on absolutely everything. The Independent Alliance, as they call it. Well, Adam has now laid down in Parliament a private member's bill, which is going to be an absolute headache for Keir Starmer, because where he desperately needs a boost in his approval ratings right now, and for those of his party, especially as they continue to degrade ahead of what is expected to be a hugely damaging and harmful austerity budget in just over a week's time, the ongoing and deeply unpopular, insistent and consistent support for the genocidal apartheid state of Israel continues, and it continues unabated. No red lines there for Starmer. He's been put up on the spot about that point before. What would it take for him to stop supporting Israel, stop arming Israel, stop flying intelligence missions from Cyprus for Israel? And he won't answer, won't give one. In fact, where that RAF base on Cyprus such frights are coming from, RAF Akrotiri, is an ongoing story being pretty much uniquely covered by Declassified UK right now. He's banned MPs from actually asking about that in Parliament. So he's quite the Democrat, isn't he? But at any rate, this bill of Shoukat Adams is putting Starmer between a rock and a hard place. His pro-Israel donors won't allow it. The Israel lobby will be incensed by it. Yet the Labour Party manifesto going into the last election also made provisions for a state of Palestine to be recognised. So this is being forced now by an opposition MP, a point that Labour actually had included in its manifesto. Well, the optics are as painful as you can get. Not that any of us will have much sympathy for Team King. But if this bill were to pass into law, a long stretch, big ass, the UK will be obliged to join the other 146 UN member states who already recognise the state of Palestine. And it has received cross-party support amongst progressive politicians. Adam's bill, of course, must be co-sponsored, and as you would expect, the other four members of the Independent Alliance have indeed done so. Jeremy Corbyn, Iqbal Mohammed, Adnan Hussein and Ayub Khan. Other co-sponsors, however, include Sean Berry of the Green Party, Brendan O'Hara and Stephen Gethin of the SNP, and Liz Saville-Roberts of Plaid Cymru. One Labour MP has co-sponsored it, Kim Johnson, and one of the currently sitting Labour MPs who Keir Starmer suspended for voting against keeping kids in poverty, Ian Byrne, has also co-sponsored it. To be honest, I don't think any of those suspended Labour MPs harbour much hope really of ever having the Labour whip restored, but quite frankly, why would they want it right now? They probably earn more respect and more props amongst their own voters and constituents by being suspended. Badge of honour, as that now increasingly seems to be. Now, private members' bills like this, brought by a single MP, in all fairness, in all reality, hasn't really got much of a hope of seeing it being passed into law without dramatic cross-party consensus. There'll have to be something seismic happening in Parliament. They rarely move beyond ever getting past second reading, which will be held on the 29th of November in this case. And I see little hope of this doing that. The Tories certainly will not back any move to recognise a Palestinian state when they are also so Israel-centric. And Labour under Starmer is even more so. Starmer, the Zionist without qualification, combined with his absolute demand for loyalty of all else and all other things amongst his MPs. He won't have any of them, won't allow any of them to back this bill without likely repercussions. So the co-sponsoring of it by Kim Johnson is one to watch. But given how many of his MPs are chosen deliberately as his sort, the selection processes around the country for Labour constituency places abused, with so many party members speaking out on such matters, and not to mention incumbent MPs replaced under nefarious circumstances as well, as they have been outspoken about, many of which I've covered previously. They are unlikely to vote against his wishes on anything, not representative of their constituents as that would be, or of what is right and just whatever keeps them on Starmer's good side, and themselves, they hope, in a job. So if they look at current polling, they should be more worried about being booted for supporting him than standing against him. And Israel being such an emotive issue for so many people now, forgiveness for voting against this, as no doubt will be expected, may be very hard to come by from the general public. But that is exactly the point of this bill. It will produce shocking optics if Labour MPs collectively vote against it, supermajority that they have. Really, the Tories and what they do are a secondary consideration. That said, however, Labour did have recognition of a Palestinian state in their manifesto, as I mentioned previously. They support it as a contribution to a renewed peace process which results in a two-state solution. Now, the two-state solution only works if you really have an iterant in there being two states. And when Labour are only condemning Hamas, supporting Israel, and ignoring the tens of thousands of lost innocent lives in Gaza by doing nothing meaningful to help them, weasel words doing nothing for them, Labour are hardly working towards that, are they? As Israel continues to widen and increase its atrocities, in no small part thanks to the intelligence gathering and arming of their regime by the West, it's becoming more and more intolerable to ordinary working class people across the West that we play a part in keeping this going. Starmer is damned here for another reason though, and that's because he's allowing the US to dictate too much of a foreign policy. For as much as Labour put into their manifesto that they would recognise a Palestinian state, there were attached plenty of conditions to that, not least of which putting Israel first every step of the way. The other part of it was the US wouldn't like it, and therefore an indefinite delay was put on that Palestinian state recognition until such time as Joe Biden, or at this point whoever now, gives the UK permission to think otherwise and do differently. We don't have leaders, we have sheep being led on foreign policy. But it's not unique to Starmer's bunch, it's been the case for years. The special relationship with the US is a very one-sided one. But if you really want to sum up exactly how weak our foreign policy is, then simply look at the fact that the Tories were apparently going to sanction two of Israel's worst far-right ministers in Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, had taken legal advice on this as they got dumped out of power. And with that legal advice now being in the hands of David Lammy, he's not acted on it at all, despite being told sanctioning these two individuals for their abhorrent, racist and dehumanising comments about Palestinians is entirely legal and appropriate. If Labour are too weak even to do that, too craven, too spineless, then there's no chance they'll recognise a Palestinian state. It's all words, and as usual when it comes to Starmer, not honest ones. Shokat Adam, however, is nowhere near as lacking in backbone where Israel is concerned. Before he brought this bill, he said following his election to Parliament on the matter of Israel that Israel has done everything in its capacity to try and destroy any chance of Palestinian statehood, through settlement, land theft, and now the wholesale decimation of Gaza. UK recognition of the Palestinian state will help reinforce the Palestinian people's inalienable right to self-determination in a way that cannot be vetoed by Israel. This would initiate a path to peace for everyone in the region and not be at the expense of any community. Until Israel is held to account, there can be no progress to stabilise the Middle East. Too many Western nations are in hock to pro-Israeli interests, and so to effect change we need such people out. People who can be bought, who are susceptible to too many free gifts, freebies, which they see no problem with, lobby with large donations. They're not people who will put others first, merely themselves. They put a price tag on themselves, and their policy gets bought and paid for as a result by those with wealth and power. Starmer has taken more of these than anyone, £107,000 worth of free gifts since becoming Labour leader. We've never had a Prime Minister who was as big of a sellout to other interests, and not the interests of his own people or the international community as he clearly is. And shameless that he won't apologise for it either, because Keir Starmer never says sorry, never admits to fault, not ever. This bill will shame and embarrass his party, of that I'm certain, and he deserves it. It will almost certainly add to his party's woes as by-election after by-election has seen Labour support collapsing across the country. He pulled off a con to get into power. He benefited heavily from anti-Tory sentiment. But he's being punished for it now. And if the recent glut of 17 by-elections just last week are anything to go by, things will get even worse for Starmer before his first set of full local elections in May. To get the details of that story in this video recommendation here is your suggested next watch, and I'll be catching you on the next one. Cheers, folks.
Looking for a delicious and affordable protein option? Start thinking outside the box and inside the carton. That's right, eggs. Incredibly versatile, eggs are packed with protein and 13 essential vitamins and nutrients, making them a nutritious and delicious addition to so many exceptional everyday meals. So crack open a carton today and get inspired at getcracking.ca.
We are saving hundreds of hours a week thanks to Canva.
We double of our output. It feels like we have 50 designers instead of just 4.
At Expedia Group, our mission is to power the world to travel, broaden horizons, and make connections. We want our customers to have epic experiences.
We have over...
We need a new system. We need a new society. We need to demand that which may have sounded impossible even a few weeks ago, but is not only realizable, but an imperative necessity. President Joe Biden has announced that he is
providing that reconnaissance have to take some responsibility for that, even though it's the
Let me just bring you up to date on our breaking news reports of an explosion and potentially a terror attack in Turkey. Our correspondent Victoria Craig is in Ankara. Victoria, just tell us what you know at this stage.
Well, the Interior Minister has now confirmed that it is a terror attack. He confirmed it on X in a post there probably about 45 minutes or so ago. This attack happened at TUSAS, that's the Turkish aerospace industry headquarters in Ankara. It's on the outskirts of the city, so it's not in the city center where I am here. He said in his post on X that there were martyrs and injured, but provided no more specific details on that. And he warned people in this country and outside of it, of course, to make sure that we get our information from official sources. Of course, as we know, social media can run rampant with rumors. State media, meanwhile, are reporting that personnel at that facility today were directed to shelters for security, and that security forces, firefighters, and medical teams have been dispatched. So very much a fluid situation here as we await more details.
We're just seeing live images from the site, and we have got some images too of where the explosion happened. Can you just tell us about the target here? Tell us about the company.
Yeah, we don't really know a whole lot more about what's happened, but this is the Turkish Aerospace Industries company, so very much working in the aerospace industry, aeronautics, defense as well. It's worth noting that the Interior Minister today was in Istanbul, so he's not actually here in the capital for an aerospace conference where they were sort of showing off new defense technology, new security technology, and all of those kinds of things. So, you know, at first people had wondered if this was potentially an attack on the minister or the ministry, but obviously that wasn't the case. She's not in town today. So,
dying or about to die, right? It's hard. The bombs would go off constantly all day long. I was there during Ramadan. The meal at the end of Ramadan, iftar, right before iftar, the drones would be more audible. Barely visualizing where people were congregating, and the bombs would concentrate in those areas. The effectiveness of a non-discriminate 2,000-pound American bomb on a collective
me,
I
La La
myself
Land was
told two
okay.
children.
I don't
They were
do
not
a lot
shot
of
just in the
musicals.
head,
Couldn't stand
but in the
Hamilton,
chest
and
first.
I haven't seen Les Miserables, but
Bullet holes
I'm open
exactly
to
where I
it.
would put a stethoscope. And the second bullet hole directly in the side of the temple. One father, whose photograph of is I look at every night, explained to me how his kid was ripped out of his hand.
Now more out of Turkey on our breaking news story.
10 meters away, he found this kid and looked at him while he got shot the second time. But his father thought that was the first time. When he came to us, he had no organs when I rolled him over. He had no organs. The classic high velocity bullet wound is a small entrance hole the size of a bullet, and the exit hole is capacious. In American football, was the size of the hole in the kid's back. Everything between his shoulder blades and every organ in his chest was included.
Yes, it's so small and unobtrusive, which is actually handy or like POV stuff. This is so much smaller and acceptable and just goes by unnoticed. You're able to capture moments that you otherwise might not be able to.
This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece. Over the past year, during my extensive travels in Greece and Cyprus, I've noticed something different. Israelis seem to be everywhere. They're not hard to identify because Hebrew is, at least to my ears, a distinctive language. I'm not the only one who has formed the impression of a large influx of Israelis into Cyprus and Greece. So too have the Greek, Cypriot, and Israeli media. For example, in August of this year, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz published an article entitled "The Second Israel, Israelis are streaming into Cyprus to buy anything in sight." According to the Haaretz article, there has always been movement to the island, but in recent months, quote, "the trickle is becoming a flood," close quote. Haaretz offered some interesting observations about Israelis in Cyprus. Several commentators who spoke to Haaretz expressed concern that the influx of Israelis into Cyprus was causing the price of real estate to rise and was making homes less affordable to the indigenous population. One Israeli who had emigrated to Cyprus told Haaretz, quote, "Israelis don't come quietly, they make a lot of noise. The more Israelis come here, the more worried I am," close quote. Haaretz cited numerous factors for the huge increase in Israelis going to Cyprus. Those factors included the high and ever-increasing cost of living in Israel, the heavy vehicular traffic on Israel's roads, and the Netanyahu regime's judicial reform law. But nowhere in Haaretz's 52-paragraph article was there any mention of Israel's brutal treatment of the Palestinian people. Haaretz interviewed 11 Israelis who discussed the reasons for which Israelis are, quote, flooding into Cyprus. It also spoke with several Greek Cypriots who help Israelis move to or invest in the island. Not a single one mentioned Palestinians. In fact, the word Palestinian appears nowhere in the lengthy Haaretz expose. Now, by the standards of Israel's racist media, Haaretz arguably is pro-Palestinian. And yet the people who spoke to Haaretz for this article did not evince the slightest concern for the rights of Palestinians. So before you conclude that the Israelis who are leaving Israel for Cyprus are conscientious objectors, think again. In fact, there's little, if any, evidence that I can find that Israel's violations of Palestinian rights play a significant role in the Israeli flood into Cyprus or Greece. Few people in the region know that the Zionist attachment to Cyprus dates almost from the founding of the Zionist movement itself. During the Third Zionist Congress in 1899, Zionist activist David Treach delivered a speech in which he declared, quote, "Jews shouldn't seek refuge in lands favorable for European settlement as they would encounter resistance in every such country. They also won't be able to efficiently settle in tropical regions. Given these conditions, Cyprus is the most suitable location for Jewish settlement. While the island isn't a magnet for European settlers, its climate is suitable for Europeans, and notably, it is in close proximity to Israel, serving as a gateway to it." Now, when Treach observed that the climate of Cyprus is, quote, "suitable for Europeans," close quote, He acknowledged, at least implicitly, that Jews who sought to emigrate to Israel from Europe were, in fact, Europeans. I first learned of Zionist designs on Cyprus from a lengthy article in Ynet, a major Israeli media organization. The article is titled, quote, "Cyprus from the lost Jewish colony to today's Israeli settlement," close quote. Ynet published the expose in August 2023, weeks before Israel's genocidal rampage in Gaza began. According to Ynet, the Zionist idea was that the Jewish state, as they called it, would initially be established in Cyprus, and, quote, "once the situation in Eretz Israel clears up, all Jews from Cyprus would move to the Promised Land," close quote. But Trich's proposal, which was presented with Theodor Herzl's consent, was immediately rejected by the leadership of that Zionist Congress. According to Ynet, Herzl did not abandon the proposal for the establishment of a Jewish state in Cyprus nonetheless. In November 1899, Herzl wrote, quote, "Since the last Congress in Basel, there's been a growing fondness within the movement for the island of Cyprus. Given that the Ottoman government shows no inclination to reach an agreement with us, some want to turn to this island, which is under British control and which we could enter at any time. Until the next Congress, I still have control over the situation. But if no results are in hand by then, our plans will sink like water on the island of Cyprus," close quote. Ynet explained that Herzl saw Cyprus as leverage to achieve Zionism's primary goal, the land of Israel. In other words, historic Palestine. Over time, Herzl even considered that this island, situated close to the shores of Israel, could serve as a literal springboard. In 2003, the Jewish community in Cyprus numbered between 300 to 400 individuals. However, 2 decades later, the Jewish population, predominantly Israelis, exceeded 12,000. In August of last year, Ynet asked the local chief rabbi, Aryeh Raskin, who are these thousands of Israelis who have permanently relocated to Cyprus? Rabbi Raskin responded, quote, "Primarily those who can work from home. Many are high-tech professionals who reside in one of the cities. Unfortunately, some choose to live in rural areas. They can connect to anywhere in the world from their homes, but they're disconnected from Jewish life," close quote. Rabbi Raskin gave no indication, like Haaretz, that the thousands of Israelis who had come to Cyprus did so for reasons of conscience relating to the oppression of the Palestinian people. On October 11th of last year, 4 days after the October 7th attacks in Israel, the Cyprus Mail published an article titled, "Israelis have made many investments in Cyprus." The article quoted George Mais, chairman of the Paphos Chamber of Commerce, as stating that Israelis, quote, "have made many investments in the Paphos district," close quote.
Why do people use Kayak to compare hundreds of travel sites at once? I like to do things myself.
I mean, what kind of connection would I have with the salmon if I bought it at the supermarket?
Kayak. Search one and done.
Brisket is back at Chipotle. Seasoned, smoked, seared, spiced, sauced, bold, and guaved. It's a whole new kind of brisket done the Chipotle way.
It's a gift swap. You gotta swap your gifts.
Like this pillow is so mean.
I see that.
It's an all-Canadian matchup. Leafs, Jets, it's on. Monday at 7:30, Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's on Monday. It's only on Prime.
When unexpected challenges hit, there's Chambers Plan. It comes with professional consulting on key issues facing business owners. Better benefits, stable rates, expert guidance when you need it. This is what Canada's #1 employee benefits plan looks like.
Mais stated that these investments have been directed at tourist and hotel units, as well as in apartments and larger residential properties. He added that numerous individual buyers had bought multiple properties in the area for use as rental properties, while others had invested in commercial spaces. A few weeks ago, in mid-September, I traveled to Cyprus to report on activities at the British military base on the southern coast of the island on the peninsula of Akrotiri. While I was there, I decided to take a closer look at the presence of Israelis on Cyprus. Upon arriving at Larnaca Airport, I first noticed that there were a number of Israeli jetliners parked at the terminal. Inside the terminal, I also noticed that there were numerous flights to Tel Aviv from Latanika on the departure board. After passing through customs, I rented a vehicle and drove to the town of Paphos. Paphos lies on the southwest coast of Cyprus, about 65 kilometers from Britain's Akrotiri military base and the city of Limassol. I started my journey in Paphos because, based on media reports and information I received from Cypriots, a sizable contingent of Israelis had either taken up residence in Paphos or had invested in businesses there. My first stop in Paphos was the M Boutique Hotel, which advertises itself as the hotel that, quote, loves Israelis, close quote. In 2022, Ynet, a major Israeli media organization, reported that Israeli celebrity chef Meir Adoni was leaving the country in order to start a new beginning in Paphos in Cyprus. At the time, Adoni said that he needed to feel excited about life again, so apparently whatever was happening in the apartheid state at that particular moment was not sufficiently exciting for him. One of the projects that Adoni became involved in is behind me here. This is the M Boutique Hotel. It's a rather luxurious place, as you're about to see. And this hotel was apparently opened up very recently. It is jointly owned by Israeli and Cypriot interests. And an article published in the Jerusalem Post in May of this year, well after the genocide began in Gaza, stated that this is the foreign hotel that loves Israelis. And in fact, it even offers them a special discount. All you have to do is be Israeli and you pay less money. Let's go inside and have a look at this boutique hotel. Apparently, Meir Adoni is the executive chef of the rooftop restaurant. And let's get a sense of what's going on inside, shall we? So judging by the language spoken in there are indeed quite a few Israelis, and the hotel does indeed love them. As you can see, they're having a grand old time as their country slaughters Palestinian children by the thousands. Let's move on and see what else the Israeli expats have established here. Just steps away from the hotel that loves Israelis, you will find Eliyahu, which offers Israeli-style hummus. I'm not so sure that there actually is such a thing as Israeli hummus. My understanding is that the dish was co-opted from the indigenous Palestinian population, but who cares about such details when you're embarked on a project of dispossession? Let's move on, shall we? So I'm now on the boardwalk in Paphos beside the sea. You know, I've been to this area before. According to Greek mythology, if I recall correctly, the waters of Paphos is where the goddess Aphrodite, the goddess of love, was born. For that and other reasons, I imagined before coming here, I've been in this general area before, but never in the center of Paphos, I expected to find a charming, idyllic Greek coastal town. Instead, what I've discovered here is crass, commercial, touristic hell. All along this boardwalk, there are these massive resorts established in ugly structures that are full of people from Northern Europe and principally from Britain who seem to have nothing better to do with their time than gorge on bad food and drink heavily. Not quite what I expected, frankly. And you know, if people who want to flee Israel, Israelis, either permanently or temporarily, are looking for an alternate lifestyle, I really don't know why they come here. I would have thought that they could do better than this. I suspect that the reason why a large number of Israelis are coming here is because there are opportunities to make money in the rapidly expanding tourism business. The weather is nice, of course, and the sea is beautiful, but man, I certainly wouldn't want to live around here. And you know, as I was walking around today, this is the part that really just revolted me, frankly. As I was walking around here, about 6 or 7 warplanes took off from Akrotiri and came screaming by. And they veered south in the general direction of Egypt or Israel. And then about 30 minutes later, a massive military transport plane took off from Akrotiri and roared by, veered to the south, and off in the direction, yet again, of Israel. And I'm going to show you, I managed to catch both of those moments on camera. Here's what I saw. Struck me as most revolting about all of this is that I checked out the people around me when these warplanes went flying overhead and when this huge military transport plane roared over our heads and veered off in the direction of Israel. And they didn't blink an eye. They just went about their normal business. They kept sipping their pina coladas, listening to their tacky 80s British pop, gorging on their hamburgers and their fries. And none of this seemed to faze them at all. And you know, all you got to do is consult the public record, take a few minutes to inform yourself, and you can figure out pretty quickly what those warplanes and that military transport plane are up to. They are assisting in the commission of a genocide by the state of Israel's genocidal regime. This didn't seem to faze anybody. I'm now standing in the center of Paphos in front of a restaurant known as Saba. This restaurant was established in 2022 by that executive celebrity Israeli chef by the name of Meir Adoni. I believe this was his first venture in Cyprus. He later expanded to the M Boutique Hotel. This restaurant is reputed to serve Mediterranean grilled Israeli traditional cuisine in what it describes as a warm, Jerusalem-like atmosphere. That doesn't look particularly Jerusalem-like or warm to me, but nonetheless, these are details. Later this evening, I'm going to have dinner at a restaurant called Demokritos. I believe it's Cypriot-owned, but apparently it's very popular with the Israelis. It has live music, and judging from various Facebook posts, they feel warmly welcomed there. I'm now approaching a well-known establishment in Paphos called Demokritos. This is a Greek tavern, but it's reputed to be very popular with the Israeli expats and tourists. And since I happen to be craving a Greek meal tonight, I'm going to go in and join the festivities. spending one night in Paphos, I drove north to an exclusive adults-only luxury resort known as the Secret Forest. I learned about this resort from peace activists on the island. The Secret Forest caters mostly to Israelis who visit Cyprus for rejuvenation. At this time of year, room prices range from 500 euros per night for a standard room to 1,350 euros per night for a 3-bedroom villa with its own pool. The resort was established by Israeli businessman Yoni Kahana. Kahana is only 35 years old, but despite his young age, he owns a kosher tourism company and 3 hotels in Cyprus. In the following video, Kahana explains what motivated him to invest in the Secret Forest.
פינטזתי לייצר מקום בלב הטבע. אתה מגיע אליו, אתה מתנתק מהשגרה, אתה עוצר רגע, אתה עושה פאוס ביום, אתה לוקח נשימה עמוקה פנימה, ויש לך זמן להקשיב. להקשיב לעצמך, להקשיב לטבע, להקשיב לעלים, להקשיב לאנשים אחרים, להקשיב למקומות וקולות בפנים שהשתקת אותם המון שנים.
היה לנו חזון לייצר מקום שיעורר תשוקה לאנשים להתאהב בעצמם ובחיים חדש.
The Secret Forest is indeed a well-kept secret. It wasn't easy for me to find the resort, and in fact, it's off the main road, and as I drove northward from Paphos, I saw no signs indicating where the resort was situated. Upon arriving at the resort, I also found no valet or security booth, which was somewhat of a surprise, at the entrance to the facility, so I simply walked into the resort and recorded what I saw. Living it up in the hills of Cyprus. completes my tour of the secret forest. I basically just walked around the place as you saw and videotaped what I could. I heard a number of people speaking Hebrew. In fact, as far as I could tell, all the guests that I came across who were speaking Hebrew. The only non-Israelis, even the front desk actually, the staff there briefly addressed me when I was picking up some paperwork, some brochures in Hebrew for the clientele of the hotel. So one of them spoke to me in Hebrew, somebody behind the reception desk. Didn't look Greek to me, it looked like she was an Israeli. So as far as I can tell, the only non-Israelis here are the staff, and a number of them appear to be from Southeast Asia. I didn't encounter any, other than the receptionists, any Israelis among the staff. I think a more appropriate term for this establishment, rather than secret forest, might be apartheid forest. Just a suggestion.
PB&J filled deliciousness. Isn't it something? Our very own billboard. It just talks about how tasty you are. Where's the crust, brother? Yeah, there you are. See? Our billboard.
Try Uncrustables. Find it in the freezer aisle.
Kai? No way. Why would I use Kayak to compare hundreds of travel sites at once? I like to do things myself. I do my own research and isn't efficient. Use Kayak. I can't trust anything else to do the job right.
Kayak. Search one and done.
Say that was wrong-headed, but it doesn't change the fact that they cared about politics. Even I was thinking, a week before my mother died, she died of a terrible cancer. It ate up her whole face. Her face was all blood and boils. It was like out of a science fiction movie. And I remember a week before she died, he said to me, Norman, tell me, what's going on in the world? What's going on in the world? It was so deep in her bones that there was a point where obviously it made no difference what was going on in the world, because she was quite soon thereafter not going to be part of the world. It didn't alter her an iota. It's like, Professor Chomsky, 95, 96, he's still arguing about the Ukraine, as if he were 20. As if he were 20. And sometime in the back of your head you're thinking, Professor Chomsky, why do you care? You may not wake up tomorrow. Didn't make a difference. It didn't make a whit of difference to him, and it didn't make a whit of difference to my parents. It was in the marrow of their bones. And it became the same thing with me.
Would you describe that as coming sort of from a moral impulse?
Yeah, fundamentally, it was about injustice. It's always about injustice. For me, I think I got this from Professor Chomsky. For me, it's the indignation at the lies. My parents never cared too much about the lies. They were very confident.
Mohammed Bassi, who's the director of the Center for Near Eastern Studies at New York University, joining us from New York. Thanks for your time. So this is Blinken's 11th trip to the region since the war on Gaza started. Anything you've seen so far that makes you believe that Blinken will use the leverage that the U.S. has on Israel to stop the wars?
No, I don't think we've seen anything, unfortunately, to indicate that the U.S. would use its leverage, and that means lifting the diplomatic cover over Israel at the United Nations and international bodies, and also leveraging the weapons sales. The one small ray of hope we've seen today is there's discussion now that there might be a shorter term ceasefire on the table, something like a 10-day or 2-week ceasefire that Egyptian officials have been talking about over the past few days. And so we might see that, and it will be a way for the Biden administration to salvage something out of this tremendous failure that we've seen over the past year.
Right, and when Blinken actually left Israel, he said this: now is the time to turn those successes into an enduring strategic success, and there are really two things left to do: get the hostages home, referring to the Israeli hostages, and bring the war to an end with an understanding of what will follow. How do you understand that statement?
I think it was a statement largely targeted at the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. It was an indication that the Biden administration would like him to take the win. Biden officials have been saying this for the past few days since it became clear that Yahya Sinwar was killed in Gaza. And so the Biden administration is now banking on this idea that they can convince Netanyahu to take that win, to take the surge of public support that he's received inside Israel, and to convert that into a ceasefire. But all indications are that Netanyahu wants to continue the war, prolong the war, and expand it.
Because, I mean, does Israel have any incentive? Does Israel have any incentive to agree to any sort of ceasefire, long or short, while the U.S. continues to supply it with endless weapons?
Absolutely, there is no incentive. Biden has refused to use that leverage over Israel and over Netanyahu, and if the pipeline of weapons is open and nothing will stop it, that's been the message from Washington, then there is no incentive to agree to a ceasefire. And Netanyahu has a huge downside from his perspective of a ceasefire, which is that the most extremist allies in his government have all threatened to resign, to pull out of the coalition, and to possibly collapse his government if he stops the war.
So what about when you look at what's happening on the ground? There appears to be an escalation with the Israelis, I'm sure you're aware, hitting the center of the southern city of Tyre in Lebanon. We've just heard a few moments ago that there has been a barrage of rockets launched from Lebanon towards the Tel Aviv area. I mean, how do you explain this escalation on the ground while the U.S. Secretary of State is in the region?
You know, we've seen this pattern of escalation follow almost every Blinken visit to the region within a few days, and today we're seeing it on the same day as he departs Tel Aviv. There's an escalation in the region where Netanyahu's military launches large-scale attacks on Tyre in southern Lebanon, one of the biggest cities in southern Lebanon, and this has been the pattern all along, and it goes back to the lack of promises that Netanyahu keeps breaking multiple promises that he makes to the Biden administration that he will restrain Israeli attacks on Gaza, and then more recently on Lebanon. And so he repeatedly sabotages negotiations, he repeatedly walks away from the agreements that the U.S. officials seem to think they've reached with him. And again, there are no consequences. He pays no price.
All right, thank you so much. Mohammed Bezi, thank you for joining us from New York.
Thank you.
There's been an attack on the Turkish aviation company TUSAS in the capital Ankara. At least 5
day, new city, new job. In my new Galaxy S24 FE, with Galaxy AI. Let's go. I finally got this internship. Oh, wait, perfect selfie spot. Oh, nice. I can use Photo Assist to erase that bag and move here. Just like that. Ah, this is too fun. Ah, I'm gonna be late. Phew, made it. I can do this. Oh, maybe I can help out. Let me give this a try. Long press, circle the problem, see every step, and solved.
Whoa, how'd you do that?
It's cool, right?
Yeah.
Time for a little break. Gotta keep my winning streak.
This is season 14, episode 3, Medicinal Fried Chicken.
That's an interesting title.
Indeed.
Right, so...
We're going in blind, we have not seen this episode.
Nope, but I guess we're going straight into this one, guys. We're going to get the full, unedited, raw clips, full, just no editing we have to do for copyright on YouTube. It'll be on our Patreon for those of you guys that want to support the channel, as well as get that extra bonus content and returns that you love supporting us. And yeah, link in the description to that. And guys, that being said, let's get straight into the video. Let's go.
Going down south, I'm going to have myself time. Friendly faces everywhere, humble folks without temptation. Going down south, I'm going to leave my load behind. In my funny internet, people starting right together. Heading on up south, I'm going to see if I can unwind. 22, 23, 24, 25. I wish I could exercise with the rest of the team. Come to soccer practice on Friday, and that's only because we get to have Kentucky Fried Chicken afterwards. Shut up, you shifty Jew! I'll fucking kill you! Sorry. I just... Hey, it looks different.
Hey, what's up with the KFC? Oh, it's not a KFC anymore. It's a medicinal marijuana dispensary.
A what? Dude, what the fuck? What the fuck? So where's the KFC now?
Alright, boys, wait out here. Let me see what's going on.
Crazy.
Sign tells me I think he just wants to buy.
See? Oh yeah, sorry, that's gone. We only sell marijuana here. Really? I mean, you're openly selling pot for reals? Sure. New state laws say it's okay. Oh, right! I love the future! Let's see, I'll take half a pound of that Jamaican passion, and give me some of that purplish stuff too. Alright, I'll just need to see your physician's reference. My huh? Well, sir, we can't just sell the marijuana to anybody. You need a reference from your doctor to show it's necessary.
Right.
Oh, that's dumb. Okay, I'll be right back.
He was getting so excited.
What they say?
KFC's gone, been replaced.
They can't do that! This is the only KFC in all South Park!
Yeah, well, I gotta get to the doctor.
The doctor to tell you what to eat!
You gotta get to the doctor!
Wow. He really loves that weed.
They said I need a doctor's referral to my Mr. Marsh, you qualify for medicinal marijuana. But you said I'm totally healthy. Medicinal marijuana is for people who aren't healthy. AIDS patients, cancer patients, you know, people going through chemo. The THC helps them eat and take the pain. You are in fine shape. That sucks.
What did he expect?
Well, so doctor, how do most people get cancer? Well, there's a lot of ways you can get cancer. Yeah, but what's the quickest way? The what? Well, like, what forms of cancer induced in time for the Ziggy Marley concert next Saturday in Denver?
This guy is like, he's actually addicted to this stuff, no?
Who's that?
It's closed, kid. There's nothing in there.
No, you can't do this! You can't be in my town close too!
Yeah, well, that's because of the vote last November to ban fast food in low-income areas.
You mean I have to drive all the way to Denver to get chicken?
No, you don't get it, kid. KFCs were only in low-income areas. In the entire state of Colorado, Kentucky Fried Chicken is illegal.
No!
Yeah, I don't know how he's gonna survive.
I haven't had KFC in almost a week. Alright, sign your name on the release form, put down the time, date, your birth year, and we'll get you through the next 24 hours. What, are you serious? Oh my god, that's KFC gravy! You have KFC! Yes!
Oh my goodness. She's giving it some like medicine.
One lousy little cup of gravy? This is a clinic to help you get over your addiction. Who wants just gravy? It goes on mashed potatoes, on extra crispy chicken skin. If you don't want it, that's fine.
Oh my goodness.
However, luckily, most of these cancers are slow growing and can take years to develop. Damn it.
Testicular cancer. Most common in older men, it can be extremely aggressive. Oh, this is good. There's no data on what causes testicular cancer to grow so rapidly. However, the primary causes of testicular cancer are linked to exposure to high doses of radiation.
That's actually like insane.
Oh, Sharon! Hey, Sharon!
What the hell?
Good news is it hasn't spread anywhere. We should probably schedule to have them. Yeah. But for now, can I finally get my prescription, please? Your prescription for what? Buffalo soldier in the heart of America. Stolen from Africa, brought into America. She was facing on the Haven.
I'm lost for words.
No, what?
I'm lost for words.
Crazy.
Why are they so humongous?
No, that's what's...
Oh, Sharon! Hey, Sharon! Oh, Sharon! Hey, Sharon!
What the hell?
Good news is it hasn't spread anywhere. We should probably schedule to have them. Yeah. But for now, can I finally get my prescription, please? Your prescription for what? Buffalo soldier in the heart of America. Stolen from Africa, brought into America. She was facing on the Haven.
I'm lost for words.
No, what?
I'm lost for words.
That's crazy.
Why are they so humongous?
No, that's what's bothering me, and it's hairy. It's bothering me. Man, you don't like it.
That's uncomfortable.
Bro, what the frick is that? It's just what?
It's not a whole wheelbarrow for them. Can you imagine that in real life?
No.
Someone walking past.
I wouldn't want to.
That's insane.
Like, it's the little hairs on it as well as bothering. Why did they add that? Like, why? I just don't understand.
It can feel overwhelming keeping your family safe online. Google Family Link helps you create online boundaries for each of your kids, like setting how much screen time is too much screen time, helping make the internet safe for kids and teens.
We're the city. We're also country. We're this guy. These girls, him, her, them, us. We're Toronto's new country, 93.5. 1 ounce of purple local, 2 ounces of Fisherman's Friend, and a ½ ounce of Alabama Kush. Oh, that is nice. That is nice.
Randy! Jesus, Randy! Your balls!
I know. Smoking pot right in front of a cop. Pretty sweet, huh?
No, I mean your actual balls!
Oh, yeah. Testicular cancer. Here, you want some? Oh, wait, you're healthy. Hey, bust his ass, officer.
I'm just looking at it.
Hey, kid. They say you're looking for some KFC. Yeah? Who is it? Yeah, well, we got some. Over at Billy Miller's house. Billy Miller? Seriously? Eric Cartman, right? Tony said you had some KFC. Sure. Jesse.
KFC Lord.
Oh my God, Colonel Popcorn Chicken and Honey Mustard Sauce. Oh God, yes. Where did you get that? I have my sources. That'll be $85. $85? I don't have that. Hold on. You're a big boy, Eric. Maybe you can pay me back another way. Do a little job for me. I've got some serious KFC coming in from a dealer. I need somebody willing to get a little riskier. Pick it up. How much KFC are we talking? 2 buckets plus a 3-piece meal and 4 sides.
Right.
Holy fuck, dude. I've got the money to pay for it, but it's become a risky business out there. You get the chicken from me, and I'll make sure you're hooked up for life. Do you want to do it? Do I want to do it? Does the Pope help pedophiles get away with their crimes?
Ouch.
Home. Hey, this could work. Hey, it's like a hoppity hop. Ha. Oh.
So hard to find
What?
I don't have
All right, I'll call. 45 to you, Dad.
Oh man, this rainy day woman is the bomb. You guys don't know what you're missing.
Well, you know, you could share some of that with us, Randy.
No, Nelson, that's illegal. I can smoke this because I have cancer. Come on, just give us a little bit. Yeah. Get your own medicinal marijuana cards. You've all got perfectly good microwaves at home. Look, I'm telling you guys, it's awesome. I can have all the pot I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls. Let me tell you something else. Chicks love them.
Women love huge balls.
Love them. Everywhere I go, when I walk by, chicks are like turning their heads and going, "What?" I never knew how much women...
You're a freak.
Literally, your wife screamed as soon as she saw it.
See?
Cartman, my boy, you got the stuff? Yeah, I got the stuff. And I got the money. Hey, you're good, Eric. I need people like you. Good, because I ate a bunch of chicken on the way over here. That's all right, Eric. I've got something big in the works. What if I told you that I now have a direct line to get all the KFC we want here? I'm sending Tommy to Kentucky to try and set up a little arrangement with the Colonel and...
Are they like 11?
Literally. It's an underground drug operation run by 11-year-old kids.
Back for me. Is that something you'd want to do?
I can't
That's something I'd want to do. Is the Pope Catholic and making the world safe for pedophiles? Excellent.
Why is it okay? With these references? I don't know why.
What the hell is going on? It's something in this town is giving men testicular cancer. Anybody got more of that Loompa Loompa weed?
Those guys have nice balls. Wish my man had balls like those.
What?
Oh my God.
Said no one ever.
I've got to hand it to you, Colonel. You got everything a man could want.
I like you, Eric. There's no lying with you. Unfortunately, I don't feel the same way about your friend.
Who, you mean Tommy? Wait, where'd he go?
Your partner is an informant for Jamie Oliver.
Leave your armor at the door. In the last few years, many of our men are dying at young ages, and those men that are almost elders are starting to die off because they're not talking about their health until it's too late. The Dudes Club is a brotherhood that focuses on men's health, and I think that it can help men all across the world and realize that it's okay to have emotion. It's okay to ask for support. My name is Kyle Sen, and I work with the Dudes Club in Vancouver, Canada, and I want to help by sharing my story. My traditional name is Datsan Chodikni, which translates to Thundering Raven in my language and the Dakat language. I'm 41.
Dude, that was sweet! He's all choked.
So how do I know you're not a liar too?
Hey, Colonel, I've been your biggest supporter since I was 2 years old. I love you, chicken. I love you.
I think you and me can work this thing out, Eric. Do business together a long time.
Yeah.
Just remember, I only tell you one time. Don't fuck me, Eric. Don't you ever try to fuck me.
No, these are like the scenes that be happening in the movies.
Yeah.
Doing the deals. They're like, "Now you screw me over, man. So if you screw me over, you're dead.
Proper parody and
I'll get your wife and your kids. And I'll kill them all. I wouldn't do that to you."
And he's got a perfect, his number one best deal that's ever come on the scene since KFC was originated. We got Cartman here who weighs 200 pounds and he's 11 years old, and he eats KFC for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I'm sure he has nothing to worry about, Mr. Colonel himself.
When you get back, do you think maybe we could make love again?
Oh, someone's feeling frisky again, huh?
Oh, it's just that I thought some more alone time could maybe be real.
Hey, my eyes are up here.
I'm sorry, I just...
It's alright, I just want you to look at me when we make love and not just in my balls. I'll be home soon, babe.
Nah.
Wow.
I'm sorry, sir, but you have to be inside the store.
No.
Well, I'm right here. Can you just bring it over? Selling medicinal marijuana outside the confines of an approved shop is still illegal.
Yeah.
Oh. Bro, what's that making them make him look slow? He's pushing. And you know the craziest part?
Look, I'm starting to feel kind of stupid. Can I please get high?
It's extremely painful.
That's gonna hurt.
Like, I'm not even trying to get TMI, but any boy watching is trying to imagine even the slightest touch to that, and he's trying to squeeze it through an open doorway.
Yeah. Not in extreme pain.
I mean, it should be.
Yeah. It's not realistic.
Oh my days.
How's he doing that?
Maybe let's say it's the
But
weed.
even bouncing on it is just like, come on now.
Bounce
Like,
on is crazy.
come on,
There's
guys.
no amount of weed or whatever that can suppress that.
That was
That's insanity.
insanity.
Mike is going to you. Get out there and sell the chicken or get lost. You've forgotten who the boss of this operation is, Eric. Yeah, well, you're not going to be around a lot longer.
Huh?
What is that supposed to mean? I told your mom you got an F on that social studies test.
Oh.
You wouldn't do that. There's a bear crap in the woods, and there's hoof crap on the broken lives and dreams of 200 deaf boys. You're late! Your father and I want to talk to you! Bye-bye, Denny. Alright, everyone listen up. I'm in charge now. Anybody got a problem with that? Not yet.
What do we want? Anchor doors. Where do we want them? Weed stores. What do we want? Anchor doors. Where do we want them? Weed stores. Look, I'm sorry, but the bill says I can't modify any existing structure. Well, I guess we could change the law to allow for medicinal marijuana to be sold just outside the door of the shop.
I don't know. Maybe the rule should be somebody can buy the medicinal weed for others.
Look, can't we skip all this and just make pot legal? Everyone is just abusing this medicinal system anyway. It's ridiculous. What's ridiculous about it? Hold on, people, please. We are all forgetting what is really an issue here. Look around. These men all have cancer. It's no coincidence that when this building changed, the rise in cancer went up. Don't you see? The KFC was keeping people healthy.
Mr. Parkman, come on. We're supposed to be handling a business. You're eating too much of the stuff. Shut up, Kevin. I'm the boss, not you, butt licker. Eric, the colonel is on the phone for you. He sounds pleased. What? Oh, that's right. I forgot to... Damn it. Okay. Put him on speaker.
Hello? Hello?
Colonel, how you doing?
What happened?
Oh, we had some problems, you know? Colonel?
Eric, what happened?
We had a little problem.
I heard.
Yeah? How'd you hear that?
Because Jamie Oliver gave his speech at the UN today. He was not supposed to give that speech, Eric.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get it next time.
There's not going to be a next time, you fucking dumb cocksucker!
Hey, take it easy, Colonel.
I told you a long time ago, you fucking little monkey, not to fuck me.
Hey, who the fuck do you think you're talking to, huh? Huh? Oh, crap.
Freeze! The cat!
Run, Country Road!
So we're all living inside of our own perception box. It's dark in there. It doesn't actually see or hear anything. It's just a series of signals. And each brain, you can think of it like a thumbprint. Physically speaking, each brain is unique, is slightly different, and it's shaped throughout our lives based on our experiences. Our perceptions are basically formed from a combination of what we expect, so that's coming internally from our past experiences, and then what's coming into our brain externally. And when those two things meet, it creates this perception, which is what we actually experience. But everyone's perception is unique, and we can never know what it would feel like to be you, for example. Only you know your own first-person subjective experience. I can never know it. And although we might have similarities, there's also these differences that create our own box that we perceive the world through. I've always been fascinated about the relationship between...
What is
Last November, this town passed a bill that seemed silly to some. Since then, we've had underground black markets, crime, death, and shootings. But now the bill has been repealed, and I am relieved to announce that once again, marijuana is illegal. And another bill has been repealed as well, because ever since we got rid of KFC, we've seen a great rise in cancer. But today, we welcome back KFC and all the medical benefits it gives us. Well, I gotta admit, it's a lot easier to get inside doors with my little prosthetic balls.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Sharon, don't be upset. The doctor made you a souvenir.
Oh, Randy, I love it!
And when it gets cold, it shrinks.
Sharon, you got a scrotum cup? Yup. Lucky.
That episode was a lot.
That was a lot.
That episode was a lot. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, South Park, what was the inspiration for that?
Yeah.
You know?
How does one come up with a concept like this?
Because bouncing,
Will these Israeli settlers' dreams come true?
Things are not going amazingly well for them. It's not something that makes me happy.
In the Asian Champions League,
My name is Vijay Prashad. I'm a historian. My name is Vijay Prashad. I'm a historian. I'm also a journalist. We are very interested in communicating with people across boundaries and borders. I came to China first 40 years ago. I was a 16-year-old boy, came to rural China, went on a tour, saw the countryside. I was impressed by the fact that the peasantry in China, the farmers and so on, were not people who were embarrassed. They looked you straight in the eye when they spoke. This is what the Chinese Revolution did. Before 1949, the Chinese peasantry in the countryside was embarrassed to look at people. They would look down when they walked. They were scared of landlords. They'd get beaten. People had to bind their feet. The Chinese Revolution changed that attitude in the countryside. This attitude still exists in many parts of the world. Hierarchies, landlordism, and so on. That's what the Global South is. It's the condition of countries that have been in a position of relative colonialism, one way or the other. Well, these countries simply were not able to develop because they didn't have investment. So they had to borrow money from the countries that used to colonize them. But look, let's be quite frank. When colonialism ended, all the wealth that had been taken from these societies like India, many African countries and so on, had gone to enrich the countries of the North. So in England, for instance, English industry was financed by the Indian peasantry. All the profits were taken from India and invested in England. So in India, there was no industry. When the British were thrown out of India, 1947, the literacy rate was merely 13%. British had ruled India 300 years. So they left the country with no finances, no infrastructure really, no wealth, no education system. Everything was pretty much destroyed, and the economy was still geared to exporting primary goods to the West. So India, went to the Western countries and said, lend us money. You took all our wealth, now lend us money to develop. They borrowed money, but they went into debt and into catastrophic debt crisis after debt crisis. Many countries, they continue to pay the debt, till today, for decades of having borrowed money. So why did neoliberalism fail? Why did any development project fail? Well, because most of these countries simply don't have capital. They don't have the human resources. They didn't make a revolution. People in China should never forget that what the Chinese Revolution gave this country was it gave the people of this country a sense of dignity. That's a key thing. Gave the people a sense of dignity. They're dignified people and so on. This is not something that the rest of the global South was able to do. Cuba did it. Cuba fought off, U.S. colonialism, got rid of the mafias and the casinos, and the people are dignified. This is not the case in most of the world. So you can try any economic policy you want. It's going to be hard to succeed if you don't have sufficient capital, if the people aren't dignified, if they're not educated, if they don't have health care, and so on. So what's the global South? Well, it's that. And then why hasn't it succeeded? Well, it's still suffering from the legacy of colonialism. This is a photograph of the 5 principal founders of the non-aligned movement. They were meeting in Belgrade in Yugoslavia in 1961. Yugoslavia no longer exists, but it existed then. There's Marshal Tito. Tito was the head of government, head of state in Yugoslavia. There was Sukarno, president of Indonesia, very interesting man. Gamal Abdel Nasser, president of Egypt. Kwame Nkrumah, the president of Ghana, and the Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, what's interesting about the picture is that the 5 of them came out of, now Tito and Nkrumah were not at Bandung, the conference in Indonesia in 1955, but the Asian and African countries had a conference in 1955 in Bandung, Indonesia, where they talked about the importance of creating a project of the South, a third world project. Zhou Enlai came from China to that conference, and he was a star of the conference. Very interesting history. So 6 years later, they met in Belgrade, and they created the non-aligned movement. Now, the non-aligned movement is very important because they were making the argument that the West, United States mainly, but Western Europe and the Soviet Union had to cut back on the arms race and not waste all this money on weapons and also threaten the destruction of the world, but use that wealth to effectively create a development project for the South. So they wanted to move guns into bridges, guns into school books, guns into hospitals and so on. And that was a part of their message. But they united almost the entire South into this project. So soon after these countries won their independence from colonial powers, after World War II, these are young states coming together to say, you know what, we want to stand on our own feet. We want you to look at us with respect. Plus, we're not fooled. The old colonial system continues. The concept Global South, like many concepts, is misleading because you think it has something to do with the South, the Southern Hemisphere. The North being the richer countries and so on. It was a little bit like, in an earlier period, you divided things by East and West. The West is Europe and the United States. The East is the Soviet Union or China or whatever. The South really refers to countries that came out of colonial.
Yeah, those are with me right now. Yeah. Yeah, the background image in the header. Yeah. Well, that's kind of where it left off, I think. They were going to come back with how they wanted to treat that. I haven't checked to see if the other assets are ready, like copy deck or anything like that. But I don't think there was communication after the header discussion. Yeah. Right. I think so. Right. So I did do those separate tests on the background images, and I told him the pros and cons to having it a certain way. So we had that discussion that we were talking about, and then it moved forward from there. Sure. I don't know if that's been resolved, so if that's the hang up, then yeah, I think we did have a gift card promo email. So this is probably just a reminder for that. Could you open that? Yeah, because it might just be certain elements that get updated. Yeah. So probably messaging and stuff. But yeah, this is. Yeah, so is this the asset that I'm working off of, or are there other? Yeah. I can ask, sure. Subject line. Usually reminders have subject line updates and things like that. Copy deck would be best, I think. Yeah, I can have a look at it probably in the morning at this point. I'm just wrapping up the testing for the upsell emails. Either way. Oh yeah, and sorry, one last front end note, Krista. So for the logic that we're talking about for the banner at the bottom, that's going to be flipped based off of the MTG or something. So I've built that as well, and it is functioning now. So whenever you want to have a look at how that's done, I can share that with you. So just let me know, or we could go over it tomorrow if you want. Sure. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it's basically all the information. I think Krista, I mentioned it in our call, so that's basic rule of thumb. So we did manage to put it in writing here.